Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Jeremy. Happy Friday.
Yes. Happy Friday to you. Are you well?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. I'm a little bit exhausted, I've got to say, but it's been a busy week.
Busy boy.
There we are. Good. Welcome to Burgess Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, innovation, and this week we are going to be joined by Paul Willoughby, who is a stalwart, if that's a good word to use, of the London market. We're going to be talking about innovation and his views on change and what's coming up around the corner. But first, why is my sound effect so low? That's just aggravating me now.
It's a question I cannot answer.
Yeah, indeed. Let me, I'm going to do that. No, it's not working. Anyway, it's quiet. So let's start with the news, Ben, as always. So I've got a bit of news. It's the news that we talked about last week. Liz Truss resigned yesterday. So when we recorded last week, Ben, the Chancellor hadn't been sacked.
Yeah.
And everything was kind of, we didn't know what was going on, and we talked about it. You made this prediction, which I'm gonna play, and hopefully people can hear. Let's.
It's a real Ratner moment for them. Keep saying this, not another Ratner moment, but it is. It's just inconceivable looking back that anybody could have done that. But they did. And this is where we are. And this is where we are. Anyway, my prediction is that she will not be in the Prime Minister in about 3 weeks' time.
You were wrong, Ben. It was a week's time. She wouldn't be Prime Minister, not 3 weeks. I can't hear you now. Why is that? Try now. Maybe it's me. Wow. Can you hear me, Ben? I can't hear anything. Tell you what, I'm going to leave and come back in again. Let's try that. Any good? I can't hear you. Could be my settings, you know. Well, while we're waiting for Ben to try and join us, which is quite awkward, I'm going to see if Paul's available and whether he can hear me and I can hear Paul. Paul, are you there?
Hi, Jeremy. Yes, I can hear you absolutely fine. I think it was definitely Ben's end.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good.
Definitely Ben's. All right, there you go. So I've jumped forward, Ben, just in case we've lost you forever.
I was just so disappointed in that prediction being wrong. I just decided to switch it all off.
I know. So you were 2 weeks, 2 weeks early with your prediction. 2 weeks late.
I don't know what I was just going to say. I don't know if I was rudely interrupted. I don't know what the bookies' rules would have been on that, because I think I put it in as an each way bet.
Yeah.
So I think I do get a payout of fifth of the odds.
Very good. Anyway, there we are. So yeah, we always say we don't know the future, and there is a prime example, even though we do in the end.
Yeah.
So, should listen. Right, a couple of bits of news, then we'll talk to you, Paul. So bear with us for a sec. So what do you want to go with first? Do you want to go Howden?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at Howden.
Right, so this is very interesting. If anybody saw this on LinkedIn or was at Firma this week, so David Howden of Howden was doing predictions. He was copying us, Jeremy, copying me, and that's good in a way. And he said exactly what I say, which is he can't predict the future. But anyway, I'm going to do the prediction. Yeah. So what he did was good actually. So he said that back in '74, when Howden started, that the market was worth, the insurance GWP at the time globally was $1 trillion. And that is now up to $30 trillion. So now up to $4 trillion, not $30 trillion, getting my trillions mixed up. So $4 trillion. So the growth sounds good, he said, doesn't it? But actually, that's just ahead of GDP, basically, global GDP. So is kind of okay. And what this chart then shows is, but what's the growth of the top 50 global companies over that period of time? And I think, without going into the numbers, this is clear that those companies, many of them techs, have massively outstripped the insurance market. And his point, and I think I made a not dissimilar point actually at the TinTech conference last week, was that there needs to be innovation, otherwise you don't get growth. And he said that his comment was, there's a danger we're moving we're sort of driving ourselves into irrelevance through renewals, because we're just basically fighting over the same piece of cake or pie that's getting smaller or staying the same size. Now, I think this is a fantastically good point, well made by David, and he then goes on to talk about what his view is on innovation, and I'll leave you to read that because it's somewhat skewed towards what he thinks Howden should do, unsurprisingly. Being the great entrepreneur that he is. But actually, I think the point here is made, and I was making it about the Boston Consulting Group report, which I think is about to come out, on how you survive in a world of high inflation, of economic challenges. And their view has always been that you can survive even in very flat sectors if you innovate and if you develop. Because what you do, and we were talking about Apple at the TinTech conference, is if you just basically focus on sales, which most insurers do, on sales activation, as opposed to, if you like, brand development or growth, you just end up competing with what's already there. And this is what David's saying. Whereas actually, if you innovate, you create a new market for something, and that that's hardly happened at all in insurance. So this is a really, I think it's a really important point, and I don't think a lot of people in the insurance sector get it. I think the brokers do to some extent, but definitely less so the carriers. So this was the point. So it's really good actually, very supportive probably of all three of us in terms of what we think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we'll talk a bit more when we bring Paul in, perhaps about the Amazon move this week. I think that's quite interesting. If we want to talk about innovation and disruption, then that's probably a nice example. Right. So you've also got a stat, Ben. Now, yeah, my sound effects are so low, it's hardly worth playing them. Oh, it's so annoying. Anyway,
as soon as we get a tech person on,
that's it.
Everything goes wrong, doesn't it? It's typical.
Typical. Anyway, so what is the word on the data street, Ben? This is it, isn't it?
Well, it's not really a stat. It's Lambda. So I don't know if anybody's read about Lambda, Google Lambda. Now, I've talked about this on this show about some of the tech that's being used, for example, in claims portals where they've got live chat. And I think actually research that we've done shows that some of that works really well when it's executed properly. And it's it kind of alleviates kind of surge events that we had, for example, during the pandemic in terms of just general queries that are coming in from brokers. Plus, they can get the MI from the system. So I've always been interested in that, and I'm not inherently interested in AI because I think it gets hyped and overblown and it becomes nearly as bad as blockchain. But if and we were talking about it has kind of disappeared off the thing, but Google, being the kind of great company it is, has said, look, we've been. So if you remember, so this is going back a bit in this story. So earlier this year, an employee of Google said, we've developed Lambda, and this AI computer, is actually got real human feelings, which went viral, obviously. And then Google said, no, of course it doesn't, you idiot. And they fired him. So he's got fired, but they've been carrying on with the development of this thing called Lambda, which stands for Language Model for Dialogue Applications. Not particularly sexy, but it's like stuff like live chat and things like that. So what they've done is they've put this out as a kind of beta test, so you can sign up for it. And I've signed up for it, but I'm not on it yet, and I doubt they'll let me on, but never know. And you can just ask questions, and this is a kind of example here of a question. So what would it be like if New York City were more steampunk, whatever that means? And this is the answer from Lambda, and there's various other things here. So once you're signed up, you can kind of ask these questions. And actually, when you look at some of the examples, you can go and look at the website. It's good. Some of the examples, it's quite interesting, the responses. It's far richer in language, in linguistic terms, than you'd normally get from chatbots. And actually, I was thinking of maybe replacing you, Jeremy, with one quite soon, if this is as good as it looks, to be honest. But
they are better answers than I give, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. So it's linguistically ahead of you, that's for sure. No question about that. But this it's actually quite. I don't know whether that's supposed to be funny at the end, but contact NASA. Where can I find an alien translator? Contact NASA and request one. I think that's quite humorous, dry humor, I'd say.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is interesting. So what I want to do, apart from the fact that what's the serious bit of it? I think the serious bit of this is that if Google is really saying that this stuff has got this richer linguistic approach, then in insurance, this ought to be a great application, because for most insurance products, as far as I can tell, you don't need anything like the sort of complex language you need here. So it ought to work quite well for Standard Price, and Paul can come in and tell me what he thinks of that. But I could see potential for this, and that's all that Google is saying. They've also done quite a lot of work around what they call kind of safety measures in there and things like that. So you can't, if you ask it to swear or something, or give you the top 10 swear words in the world, it doesn't do that. So I guess, again, in terms of, safety in insurance and products and D&O and all that sort of stuff, there are protective things that they've already built into this. So that's quite cool, really. And then I thought, what if we did this? What if we asked the question about what would it be like if an insurance market had great technology? And then we could get some really quite good answers about that. But I'm going to do that as the next phase of this. I'm hoping I get put on and then I can ask that question and see what it says. But I might guess at some of the answers.
I think that would be great, Ben. Yeah, let me know. I'm going to sign up and see if they'll let me on.
Yeah. Well, I did think one thing was that, this question of what would this world look like, and I said there would be men and even women and all sorts of other diverse people wandering around in this metaverse wearing casual attire. But that's my starter for 10 around this. So this is Lambda, and go and look at it. And it's not a prediction, but I think it's quite Google's, sensibly not overplaying it, overhyping it. But
yeah,
it's the best bit of AI I've seen.
That's pretty good. If you Google something like Google AI makes a telephone call to book a restaurant or something, and they show you at this Google conference. It's about an 8-minute clip, and they call a restaurant a hairdresser's and somewhere else, and this bit of AI basically just books the restaurant. You say, book me a table at this restaurant at 4:00, and it picks up the phone and does it. And the kind of the natural language, the inflections, is that right?
Yeah.
That they've managed to program in there are really interesting, and the reaction of the human at the other end of the phone is also interesting, because it's fascinating. That's quite a few years old now, that clip. So they're also working on language and chat bots.
It does seem to take a long time, though, this AI, given that its very premise is it's very quick at evolving. That's all I can say. It takes years. They go. Now we've reached the point at which it can give you a kind of rich, slightly nonsensical bit of a reply.
Yeah.
I wonder, Ben, if we can put a market reform contract on there and see what the response is back. We might actually get some plain English.
You might do.
I tell you what, Paul, it doesn't really matter what sort of English, as long as it's not the English that's in there right now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Christ, that's
Anything
what you want to do, isn't it? Not
So let's bring Paul in properly. So welcome, Paul. So Paul, we've known each other for a long time when you were at Beazley, and now you're working as independent in the London market around digital strategy, innovation. Kind of that's where you've been. So we thought it'd be great to catch up on the show and just get your thoughts about where you see kind of innovation and technology going, some of the challenges ahead, and we can have a chat. So so as I say, you've been in Lloyd's and Beazley are now working for various people. What's your kind of take on how technology and innovation is either working or isn't? What's your take on it? Oh, Paul.
I knew that would happen.
I knew that would happen. That's
just
technology.
Typical, isn't it?
Are you back?
You'll be back in a second.
Here we are.
I think we're definitely jinxed today. There's gremlins afoot, and as you say, as soon as you get a technology person on there, it all just breaks. So apologies. So Jeremy, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. So I was just saying, you've been working in technology and innovation at Lloyd's and Beazley, and now as an independent. So just to get your view on how technology is changing, where the investments are, where you see the challenges and also the opportunities. What kind of your take on that?
Yeah, and it has changed. There's definitely, I've had a Beazley view for 9 years. And Beazley are very forward thinking when it comes to technology and innovation. And but now I'm outside and I'm talking to sort of the C-level suite at lots of different insurance companies. Actually, lots of people have got the same thinking, and I kind of describe it of this. There's a triangle at the moment, which is 3 things that people are really looking for. They're looking for increased distribution opportunities. So they're looking at technology to sort of open up, quote and bind, put their products on hubs and marketplaces. They're looking for operational efficiencies. So workflow is still really prevalent, and people are understanding that the submission deluge we get today has got to be challenged, and the only way to really do that is workflow. And then they're looking for better performance, and by better performance I mean writing better risks. So there's kind of this triangular thing happening. Part of the challenge is lots of firms are going through to try and solve all 3 things at once, and I don't see that as working, because when you increase distribution, you naturally increase your operating costs, because you have to test lots of different products. You have to go onto hubs. That feeds grit into the machine. So the 2 are kind of contradict themselves. And similarly, if you want better performance, it's all about bringing new data sources in, understanding the client, building single client view. You've got to invest in data, and it costs a lot to do, and to embed that in your products and services. What a lot of people are doing to solve the bottom 2, ops efficiency and better performance, is looking at sort of underwriter workbenches, and it's the new word on the block. But actually, they're elevating they're elevating above their legacy, above their policy admin systems, and they're looking to implement workbenches, which have different meanings to different people, but that's a real common theme at the moment, and it's how do we build a data layer above all our systems that allows us to sort of have they call it a single pane of glass, but I don't like the term.
Does that mean, Paul, that effectively they kind of create a cutoff between the legacy and what they're going to do going forward, which is sort of what Blueprint has said as well, isn't it? Because I've heard this from quite a few players over the years who've looked at it and gone, well, we realise in a sense it's better for us to just go outside and start from scratch rather than to try and deal with the beast that lives within.
Yeah, and I'm a really big fan of beta business models where you do that, where you take your team, your experts, your team, and you start from scratch and you remove the legacy, because actually it's not just about legacy technology, it's about legacy thinking. A lot of firms can't get out of their own way because it's the way we've always done it. And I think BrickKey and Vave, they're good examples where people have been allowed the freedom to go and think differently. I think what it does mean is that things like augmented underwriting, you can experiment in that layer. You can put different data sources in. If somebody says, Paul, we need to start looking at modern slavery data, it's going to be a regulatory requirement, you can put that into that layer above, and you're not breaking your policy admin systems, you're not breaking your data systems. So I like the idea of it more because I'm an experimental kind of guy. I like the idea that we got this kind of experimental layer above our systems as well.
And when you just Paul, I like that too, and I think it works well. And where I've seen progress made is when you have those small, sort of in a sense, small groups of people talking about unencumbered by procedures and rules, in a sense, saying what's the actual problem we're trying to solve and what's the most streamlined way to get that. Except what I would say is I just have seen so little of that in this market. The tendency seems to me to go for a rules-based approach, which was to me a very old-fashioned way of developing technology in a business. It's what I started out doing maybe 30 years ago in some of the big banks, which was like 6 months locked in a room trying to work out a structure of the new IT thing.
Yeah, I think, and to the first question as well, Ben, we do have a problem with the infrastructure in the market. We know that, but actually the infrastructure within each firm. So as a head of innovation in the market, I've kind of been building a house on sand for years, because we can build all these wonderful widgets and they do great things. You can't plug them in anywhere. They hit a roadmap, a tech roadmap, and everybody's trying to keep the lights on. They haven't got time to feed the machine and industrialize these experiments.
Oh, just losing you, Paul. Let's just give it a second.
So while Paul's doing that, while Paul's going to come back in a minute, as I said, I agree with that. And I think that seems to me to be London's problem, which is partly what's this infrastructure and how does it work? And when and if Paul comes back, I think the question is really about to what extent can businesses do this on their own and develop their own paths? Or do we? How important is that infrastructure? So you may not have heard that, Paul, but I was just saying I completely I agreed with you, but also I said, so how important is this infrastructure? How essential is it versus in a London market versus say players just saying, look, we'll invest in this ourselves and we'll just do it ourselves, or we'll just do it as a sequel 6 or whatever we call it.
I think it's important, and I think part of the problem we have today is we still collaborate a lot, and we've still got groups of individuals that are really, really passionate about moving the market forward. I think a lot of the things that we see, like in the insurtech craze that we had, it was boutique solutions, Ben. So that there was a Consiris is fantastic for them, but for vessel information, and that's great for marine. But what do we do? What do the property guys look at? So the property guys, they want to look at flood widget or innovation. There's very rarely does an innovation come along which sits across all of the products. So a big insurance company in London market might have 80 products, and you're innovating on 3 of them. It doesn't change the game. It's not a new model, which is where we're coming back to these idea of beta businesses. They are things like services led you know, rather than product led, those innovations that you see where people are really changing, focusing on risk management, that's cross product. And I really like that. And it means that you don't have to break your technology and your infrastructure.
It's interesting that, because when I've worked on, say, brand development projects, you get like to the end of it, and then they go, right, that's great, we've got the brand, it looks beautiful, we've got all the values, everything's set up. So now what we want to do is write a separate one for each of our classes of business, which of course I've always said, no, that's not the point. You don't do that. What you do is you say that what are the slight differences between our classes of business and build the brand into every part of that. Is that analogous to what you're trying to
100%. So
get to?
I'm anybody that hears me talk, they always hear me talk about entity resolution, right? Because I actually think that's the basis of how we should innovate, which is, what do we know about the client? What information, where are they based? What firmographic data? What's their ESG criteria? What's their cyber score? Because that data works across every product line. It's the foundation of a product. And it, you know, I think it's the one true area where you can innovate from all the way up. So auto responses to, you know, auto triage, auto response, auto decline can't happen unless you understand the client, because the machine has to hang on to something. So you're absolutely right. We are a market of product silos, and we have product, therefore have silo technologies. And I think the underwriting groups have always been given a lot of power to make their own decisions, and they need to act like entrepreneurs because they have to be hungry and go out. But actually giving them that freedom on how they develop their services and their technology is really dangerous, because you end up with 80 different, you know, years ago we had access databases, didn't we?
Yeah, and I mean, I did some research for, I was working with one of the big brokers, and we went and interviewed and spoke to a lot of the kind of leading chief execs. This was just pre-COVID, but at that time, they were all saying that the future was fluid movement of talent within the underwriting space, not necessarily, you know, technically proficient people, and technologically proficient people, but definitely not people who were stuck working in cargo for the rest of their lives. They would move. Now, it doesn't seem to me that has moved very much further forward. So that is presumably just a cultural sort of issue, is it, or what?
It depends what area of business you're looking at. So in the small, medium enterprise and the mid-market, I think you can transition to portfolio underwriting, which is, I think, what you're describing. Yeah. But in the large complex, these guys are just experts in their field. They are, you know, they're ex-engineers, they're ex-lawyers. You can't just switch turning a D&O underwriter into a cyber underwriter overnight, or even more drastic, a property guy into a marine guy. That's what the market's built on, that expertise. So it's just not going to happen in my eyes at that level.
So don't you just say to them, you just carry on working then as you know, brainy individuals who add a lot of value through your human, you know, your tacit knowledge, your implicit knowledge, and you may still be working off spreadsheets for a while, but you're actually, that's not something where technology is going to be the sweet spot, if you like, of technology and humans in that space is going to be much more towards humans than it is towards sort of self-service or data.
I think so. And you know, I talk about a workbench as a way of packaging up all of the data and augmenting it and handing it up to an underwriter so that we can use the valuable piece of the underwriting, which is their intuition, because that's the most important aspect of it, right? Their relationship with the broker, their understanding of the macroeconomic conditions of today. That's why we employ these guys. You know, and I'm talking large complex, but we need to be able to feed them with the data, and we need to feed them with the services, and we need to make their life easy. What we don't want are these guys in 7 different systems copying data from one screen to the next. That is a complete wasted use of their time. And I think that's why workbenches are becoming attractive, because you can, you know, make a little pretty box of data with a bow on the top and say, please make your decision based on this.
Yeah.
And Paul, we've been talking about kind of these issues for, I don't know, feels like forever. Yeah. And I just wondered why do we make it so complicated in London? You very succinctly kind of identified the problem and a solution to that through different lenses there. And I just wondered why do you think that clarity of thought and then execution, we haven't seen it in the London market.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had a little foray into personal lines over the last few months, and I start looking at what personal lines products are offered, and it's just vastly different. If I think about digitizing a company, a Beazley, an Amlin, a Hiscox, as I say, 80 products, but those 80 products are across different segments of the market. They're in different situations where the rules are different. So, you've got
Oh,
am I back?
You're back. Yeah.
Sorry, this is fun. I'm sure someone's just downstairs switching the Wi-Fi on and off just to wind No, so sorry, what I was saying is we've got these massive products over a massive geographic locations with different rules. So you've got US business, you've got service company business, you've got your company market business, you've got your syndicate business. It's just a lot, an awful lot. And whereas if you look at some of the personal lines carriers that have auto, home and pet distributed in the UK, clearly you can innovate more easily on that. And I'm not saying what they do is not complex as well, but it's just doesn't seem to be as much of a mesh, really.
Yeah.
The ecosystem.
No, I think that's true. We're doing some work right across the UK now in sort of effectively SME markets, and e-trading now is pretty much, well, I think we've got about 75% regularly e-trading in those markets, and if you just then look over to the claims area, I think all the big composites have got claims portals now up and running, and others are going. I know others are developing them, so you can see that becomes that technology at least becomes ubiquitous, and that as you say, I think is because everybody is effectively selling either the same suite of products or a subset of that, and they're quite standard. I mean, some of the issues we get are around things like escalation points, but so there's still stuff to work out. But I feel there that, I don't know if you agree on this, I feel not far off around the corner in those types of markets is quite a big shift, where actually that stuff is going to start to work, because all the forces seem to me to be moving in the right direction, as opposed to London, where I just think it's hard to deal with anywhere where you don't get the sort of objection of, well, we need to do it the way we've always done it because it's not, so progress in some senses in London may feel illusory. It doesn't, you feel like you might be making progress, but when it's a cultural problem, you're not really, if you see what I mean. They snap back to where they were.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes I say it's a cultural problem and sometimes it's just a complexity problem. Yeah. If you want to, I did a proof of concept on some sensors many years ago, and for commercial property, it made absolute sense to use these sensors to detect for dampness, so loss of water, major losses. But you play around with the sensors, and you think this is great. You tie it up to a product. How do you distribute it? Like, we're 5 steps removed from the end client.
Yeah.
How do we get these sensors in the hands of the client? So suddenly you have to go to the broker. The broker has to go to the MGA or whoever's got the business in the first place. And somebody's got to go and plug them in. And so it's just the meeting of minds is much more complex, and everybody wants to be involved, or they don't want to be involved. If they don't want to be involved, you haven't got a chance of getting these things to market. So,
well, I think the thing that Beazley was very good at was trying to, wherever it possibly could, get to listen to what the actual customer need was or the outcome was. And I don't necessarily think it's complexity. I think it's the way the market is structured. We had a conversation about this at the claims conference, which was all about, on that panel, it descended into people talking about, well, exchanging should do this, and then someone else should do this. And I remember, Rob Powell from Marsh just shaking his head, going, "It's nothing to do with any of that. Nobody cares about any of that. You have to." And I said, what you've got to do is identify what the benefits are to the customer, and then work it back from there, instead of trying to work it the other way around. Because you just described it perfectly. We had a great product, but we didn't know who the customer was. So it was a sort of solution in search of a problem, as it were.
Yeah, and those that know me know that the word customer or client centricity is like, I just use it in every sentence. Yeah. Just trying to run it home to people. There is a person at the end of this, right? And that person has a want and a need. And that's what that person wants and needs is changing, right? Our clients are out innovating us. So we need to get out there. And fortunately, one of the clients I work with now has many different industries across automotive, retail, gaming, and I get to talk to clients, which I've never been able to do before. I did at Beazley. I was fortunate enough to run a program of work called Closer to Clients, and it was fantastic because I actually understood what the risk manager wanted and what they wanted from us. And there are not, I could probably name 3 other people in the technology and operations world who's ever spoken to a client.
No, that's really true in these sort of what we might call kind of old-fashioned industries, and it's also somewhat true in tech industries as well. So it's an unholy alliance. I mean, I remember doing some work for a very, very big, let's call it a technological company that did financial information, and I not that many years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I did a focus group with some of their biggest clients who used this information systems, and their top brass came along and they were like blown away by a 2-hour focus group saying, we've never ever listened to clients. They're a two-way mirror, and they said, we've never listened to these people. And they, in that space of that 2 hours and the subsequent discussion, they were saying, well, we could have done this and we could do this. And it was,
absolutely,
I thought, I was just dumbfounded that they had never, it's a big name, they've never actually listened or spoken to people.
No, I was talking to a gaming development company the other day, and how do you think they develop games? They put them in the hands of the users and say, do you like this? And yet we develop a product and go, I think you need this. Like, I know what you want, and without even testing it. So I think it's a soapbox of mine. But as a market, we do have the opportunity to bring these guys, bring these teams together.
Yeah, we're absolutely on the same page. It needs a campaign.
Yeah.
Let's give it a 3-letter acronym, because that always works, doesn't it, in the London market?
Yeah, it's C2C, closer to clients. There we go.
Great. You're part of the tribe, Paul.
Oh, problem.
So I just wanted to finish off. So other news this week we've already touched on is kind of the Amazon making a move into insurance. Okay, it's not London market, but I mean, we must have been talking about this for 10 years. What happens when Google or Amazon or a big tech player makes a move? And I just wanted to just get your initial thoughts. I know it's only 48 hours old, this story, but what do you think? So here's my take. I was speaking to some people yesterday, and they're basically saying, bring it on. This is good. This is gonna like put a firework, in the mix, and we will need to change and innovate and talk to customers and start to do that. So that they were quite, and they were ops and IT kind of transformation, but actually just a little bit more removed. So that they were, they were kind of excited.
Were they sending their CVs into Amazon then?
Yeah, maybe that's what they were thinking. Yeah.
No joke. I think, Jeremy, people in ops or transformation are always desperate for any type of burning platform to wake people up, because we've been banging the drum. We can see this, right? Practitioners have got their head down doing what they do. That's their role. But us, in these challenging innovation roles are constantly saying someone's going to come and take our lunch money. The pandemic was as awful as it was a great burning platform for e-trading and for PPL. And when I was doing modernisation at Lloyd's, we were desperate for something like that to wake people up. So I think news of Amazon is important for waking people up. However, if we look at it, I'm back again, sorry. If we look at this news, it looks like a distribution play at the moment, and it's about putting your products and services onto their platform. If we really look at what the Lloyd's market's all about and the complex nature of the products we do, in the US, when we do admitted US rating products, we've got potentially 100 compliance people just going through the rules and regulations and filing the returns and making sure that we don't do anything stupid to upset the regulators. Does Amazon really want that? No. So there's still a role for us in that complex piece of doing what we do really well, which is getting products to market. But what they could teach us with their data will be about buying habits and what the end users actually want. It's to the point, the famous cross-sell. Every insurance company in the world talks about cross-selling. I don't think anyone's particularly good at it. I don't think we're not, the way we're siloed in our products, we're not incentivized to cross-sell this. Why would you do it? But actually the data is available that will wake people up. If Jaguar Land Rover buys these 10 covers every year, we know they do, then why wouldn't you set your business up to cater for that? We look at that in the SME space. Most people have bought packages. Business owners bought packages for years. We kind of know what products get bundled. Do we know? Do we know what they're buying? Or, you know, they don't only really want 2 coverages, but they're buying 10 because it's bundled. What Amazon might be able to tell us is what people are actually buying, what they're after, what they're searching, because they've got that analytics. So I'm one of those people that's quite glad it's come to the fore and we're having conversations about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's it's definitely a data play, isn't it? Because that's, once they've got that, then they know exactly what to do with it, and probably a cloud play as well. But they've got, to my earlier point, or to the Howden point, and the point about growing a market, they will want to grow a market, not just play in a market that already exists. So the question really is, what customer benefits are they going to be looking at? Because the philosophy of Jeff Bezos was always about, when you look at the future, you look at what's not changing as opposed to what is changing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting way of looking at what might happen when you're doing strategy, because if they're saying, well, what's not changing is London or insurance or the way they distribute their product. So therefore, if Amazon comes in, I think people buy Amazon. I think the selling point of Amazon is it comes quickly and it's assured delivery.
Yeah.
And what happens commercially is that, rather like in the supermarket at the checkout, you pick up a packet of sweets. You go, well, because it's quick, I can buy a few other things while I'm here, and I wonder what else they've got, right? So it's nothing new in that, but wow, the logistics behind it are just blow my mind.
Well, exactly. If you think about what I just said about distributing sensors to the end user, Amazon can just do that, right? They can sell the sensors on their store, they can distribute them, they can get them to the end client. So insurance companies have got to be looking at them as a partner for that kind of distribution.
Yeah, it is. So, I'll carry that point on, because I can see exactly where Paul's going with it, which is that once they're able to connect product potentially to insurance, which obviously is like an affinity, the old-fashioned kind of affinity sell, that's one thing. The other thing is, Jeremy, the biggest complaint now at the moment in the market on service is the slow response on getting quotes to customers or claims paid. Its responsiveness is the single biggest issue in the industry for service at the moment. We can tell you that from every survey we do. And the industry is not getting any faster. It's getting slower and slower, and it's killing off, the benefits for a lot of people of that. So, and you risk underinsurance on that point. But if Amazon could in any way start to address that, that would be a game changer.
Yeah. Definitely. Are you back, Paul?
I'm back. Sorry. I'm just going to give up and phone Sky and start shouting at them about my Wi-Fi. I can solve many things, but not getting decent Wi-Fi, apparently.
No, that's fine. It's been brilliant. I loved it.
I think there've been some really good points made, and I think for me, what is interesting with all of the central service stuff, the Blueprint 2 conversations, we did Tintech a couple of weeks ago with Bob James. There's just a lot happening, and everybody seems to have some focus on it as well centrally. So in my experience, I've never seen so many people wanting to engage, which I think is a real change for us, both at the innovation level, and at the central products and services level.
Cool.
I think there's that greater customer connection coming through as well. I'm getting, well, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't work with any tech companies. Now I work with quite a lot, and they're coming to us saying, can we use some of your data around, in our case, it's brokers, but brokers as a proxy for customer, to understand what customer outcomes we should be talking about and so on. So that's brilliant. Really what we want to happen.
Good, great. Well, always great to talk to you, Paul. Thanks ever so much for sparing the time and giving us your thoughts. was great, and we'll see you soon. I'm very sure.
Yeah, you on again. It was so good. There's so much more to talk about.
There is so much more.
We could be here all day.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Paul. Thanks very much.
See you soon. Bye. That was good. Yeah, it was good. Like you say, I think we've just basically put a platform down to actually jump into tons of topics. So yeah, I hope Paul will come back and we can explore some more of that.
Well, it's positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you feel optimistic?
I can't wait to get. Sorry, viewers. But so to give you the backstory of this, I did some at TinTech last week. We did some filming, and they asked me to rescript, redo, whatever, refilm, retake. That's it. Thank you. Retake a bit of to camera speaking in order for them to edit it, and they told me what to say, which was, why don't you say you're optimistic? So that's just what I said to the question, how do you feel? I feel optimistic. So we're waiting for the clip to come back, and we're just going to play it over and over again.
It's going to be your catchphrase.
I'm going to get a hat made, a t-shirt. It's going to be amazing. The merch opportunities.
It is. It's very good. Yeah. It's the way you said it, not what you said.
I don't know. I haven't watched it back, so I can't wait to see it, actually. But anyway, I'll see it. Good. I'll do the bell anyway, even though we can't hear it. So thanks, Paul, for that. So Ben, what are you doing this weekend? Anything good?
No. Football, maybe a bit of cycling. That's it. Not much. Not too much at all. Going out for dinner. For a belated birthday dinner in a fancy restaurant down in Marlow.
Nice.
Very nice, eh? How the other half live?
That's it. Living the dream, Ben. That's
living the dream.
Yeah. I am. I'm going on holiday actually on Tuesday. I'm going to have a few days away. It's been a hectic few weeks, so we won't be here on Friday next week, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. And yeah, we should catch up soon. Thanks, Ben, as always.
New Prime Minister when we come back.
There will be, won't there?
Maybe there've been two by the time we come back.
Maybe. Let's predict it now, Ben. How many prime ministers will there be between now?
Well, I'm going to say one, of course.
Yeah.
And that Amazon will have a 90% share of the global insurance market.
Yeah, in 2 weeks' time.
In 2 weeks.
We'll come back and report on that. Thanks for tuning in. We shall see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.